Hi, hello, and welcome to my reseller channel, Flippin Hippos. I'm Star. Today is Tuesday, so it's time for a tutorial. For today's tutorial Tuesday, we're going to talk about building a reseller schedule that you will actually stick to. A lot of resellers fail the schedules that they set up for themselves, not because they're lazy, but because they are copying schedules and building schedules that do not fit their life. If your schedule only ever lasts 3 days or a week before you abandon it and you find yourself stuck in that cycle over and over again, this is not a discipline problem. This is a bad schedule problem. The first thing you need to do is stop copying other resellers' routines. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's routines outside of work, responsibilities between family, friends, pets. You may have another job. Everyone's life looks completely different. So what works for me is not going to work for my friend Lori, and what works for her would never work for my friend Valerie, and what works for her would not work for Jenny. So the difference between someone who keeps failing at keeping a routine and those of us that successfully do is that we over here have figured out how to create a schedule around our life and responsibilities that works. Everyone over here struggling is trying to emulate somebody else's schedule, copy another schedule they saw, go with an ideal schedule that doesn't even begin to be able to fit into their lifestyle. So that's the first step. Figure out your real life. Don't worry about mine or anyone else you see with great schedules, anyone else you admire with time blocking skills or routines. Figure out your life. Before reselling even comes in, the first thing most of us have to work around is family and or kids and pets. I would put pets in that category because if you have dogs that need to be walked or animals that need to go to the vet, clearly you're going to prioritize that or make room in your work schedule for that. So that would be the first thing. Then if you have another job, whether it's part-time or full-time, that's clearly going to have to come first. And then you need to figure out your own personal energy levels. Are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person or a night person? When does your energy peak and when does it kind of wax and wane? Always try to work at your peaks and find something easy to do during that low period or something else. You can schedule your reselling schedule to be actively photographing and listing when you are at your peak and walking your dog and eating lunch at your low, right? So this is where most people mess up because they build fantasy schedules. You can't have a fantasy schedule. You have to have a schedule that works around family and kids and pets, work, and your energy level, period. If you are not a morning person, you are never going to succeed getting up at 6 a.m. to do shipping and trying to work all day. Let it go. That's a fantasy. Sleep until 10 and work a second shift or whatever you need to do. Pick your money-making priorities. Now, I like to say there are 3 things that we have to do every day as resellers. You have to ship, you have to list, you have to source. I don't know that you need to source every day, but you do need to source to replace what you've shipped and list to replace what you've shipped, and you can't list if you don't source. So those are like our 3 most important things. Shipping is number 1. You need to be doing that every day. If you have every other day shipping or something set on your stores, then it needs to be in your schedule on those days that you have to ship. But I always say prioritize shipping first, get it out of the way. And then you want to do your listing. And that includes photographs and prepping items. And that goes back to the batch work I'm always talking about. And you have to source to replace that. And there is customer service that comes into play. You need to answer messages. You need to send offers. You need to set up sales and things like that. So if you only had to do one thing today, what would it be? Probably shipping, right? So I prioritize it on my schedule. And then the next thing I prioritize. So just keep asking yourself that same question or just make a list of priorities. Create time blocks. Time blocks are not hourly prison schedules. Time blocks are simply a way of saying, at this time I do this, and then I do this. Do blocks of listing, shipping, sourcing. Be flexible, be structured. Everyone's blocks can be different. There are some people who spend one entire day sourcing, one entire day photographing, one entire day listing. There are people who do all three in one day in like 1 to 2 hour chunks. There are some people that do every other day. You got to figure out, you're back to that. You got to decide who you are. Are you someone that can do one activity all day for 8 hours? Or are you someone that needs to change the activity that you're doing every hour because you get bored and you don't want to sit there and do the same thing all day? That's where you have to decide when you're going to switch and how long your blocks are going to be. We're back to building around your energy again, because this is a huge differentiator. High energy is usually when you want to be listing and doing photos. Low energy is when you want to be sourcing, because it doesn't take a lot of energy to go to the store or go online and shop. That's when you could be doing your delisting, relisting, or you're answering your customer service emails and such. If you're a content creator like myself, I try to do these videos when I'm high energy at the time of day when I am most awake and alive. I film these videos, but the short reels, the funny little things that I do on TikTok and stuff, I'll do those when I'm low energy, because typically I'm not even on camera for those. It's just thinking of an idea, something funny, relatable to other resellers, and creating a 30-second short video. I don't need a lot of energy for that. But when I'm on here talking to you, I do. So that's just an example of how you can think of it in content creation as well as reselling. A lot of you probably are content creators also. So all the stuff that I talk about as far as scheduling and having these routines for reselling, you can use for your content creation too. In fact, it's part of my built-in schedules and routines to have time for content, and they're prioritized accordingly. So, build your blocks, your times, your routines around your energy, and pick things to do based on what time of day you have the most energy. Start small, okay? Don't just wake up one day and go, you know what? I'm going to list 30 items a day, and I'm going to have a strict schedule starting at 7 a.m. until I go to bed at 10 p.m. Because you're going to fail, and you're going to throw that out the window, and you're never going to stick to it. Start with, I'll list 5 a day or 10 a day. Or I'll have a good structured schedule when I wake up in the morning, and then we'll kind of play it by ear in the afternoon. And then once I get a handle on that morning schedule, we'll start scheduling the afternoon out. Start small, little bites, tiny little bites, a little bit at a time. And when you get adjusted to this part of the schedule, you can always add more and build. You want to build consistency, consistency, consistency. Build that consistency first and then scale. Get a good morning routine or an afternoon routine, and then add the other half. Add ketchup. Ketchup? Not ketchup like on your French fries. Add catch up, CATCH, time, or flex time into your schedule. So life happens, right? We all get sick. We all have issues come up. I had my power go out a couple weeks ago for 5 days. Keith had some health issues going on. We're helping take care of his grandparents. Life can really happen sometimes. So you need a little bit of flex time in your schedule. So if you can't build in one entire day for that, build a couple of hours at the end of the week. I like to take my Friday afternoons and catch up and do anything I didn't get to that week. Sometimes my Friday looks like me taking photos all day. Sometimes it looks like me adding stuff to my draft bank to replace what I used all week that I didn't have time to replace. Sometimes I'm all caught up and I'm just doing extra work. So try to build that in as well. It will really help in the long run if you have like one day a week or just a couple hours a week where you can say, where did I fall behind this week? What do I need to do? You didn't fall behind because of your schedule, by the way. This is for when life happens. And life happens almost every week for some reason. It just keeps happening. I guess life happens all the time, right? And then do a weekly reset. I like to do this also Friday afternoons so I can think about things over the weekend. I don't work on the weekends typically, but I can ruminate and let things simmer in the back of my subconscious. Usually when I think about something that I need to solve, a problem that needs solved, or something I need to change or work on, if I think about it and then I just push it back there and let it ruminate, kind of let it simmer back there in the subconscious, I'll wake up or be in the shower and I'll have this brilliant idea and I'm like, there it is. Or I'll be on one of my walks. Most of my ideas come to me right before I fall asleep, right when I'm waking up, in the shower, or when I'm on a walk. And it's because I push it. When you sit here and think, you're never going to solve a problem. Sometimes you just have to let your brain work it out yourself. So weekly reset, Friday afternoon. Think about what worked, what didn't, what do I need to adjust? Have no guilt. Whatever didn't work, you're not guilty about. It didn't work. Why are you guilty? You tried something. It didn't work. Now, what are you going to do? How are you going to pivot? What are you going to change? What's going to be different next week? What worked? What didn't? What can you do? Recently, the shipping prices went up, and you guys, any of you that watch this channel regularly, probably saw me in like 3 or 4 live shows over the course of a month, and many of these videos continuing to say I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I just kept thinking about it until I figured it out. It's okay to sometimes know a big change is coming and not know what you're going to do, and just take your time to come to a conclusion. But you want to rethink these things every week. What changed? What are platforms doing? What worked? What didn't? What am I going to do next week? And tie everything back to what makes you burn out, because that's what you want to avoid. Whatever has made you burn out in the past, avoid that. Set up those boundaries that we keep talking about. And if you don't know, we're going to put the videos back up on top again. Watch them if you haven't. They're super important because all resellers need boundaries to avoid burnout, to have really good success at being productive and having great routines. And remember, this is real life reselling. That's all I'm ever going to teach you on this channel. This isn't Unicorn Glitter Fart Hour. This isn't YouTube Fantasy Hour. This is the reality of what it is. And you have to remember that and build real schedules that work with real life, not fantasy schedules that work with fantasy life. We're all just human beings trying to do the best that we can do, and life happens. In fact, more often than not, shit happens, and we're all just really trying to deal with it, and nothing's ever going to be perfect. Not you, not me, not my business, not my routines, not yours. But it's just important every week to keep resetting and thinking what worked, what didn't, what can I do? Have that flex day where you can kind of catch up and figure out what you need to do to get back ahead of the game. Do schedules that really work for you. And most importantly, I'm going to say it one more time. Remember that this is real life reselling. We are real people in a real life, just trying to all do the best that we can do. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know down in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, and help me feed some hungry hippos. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.